At exactly 4:32 a.m. on November 1st, 2025, the skies over northern Ukraine erupted into a blaze of fire and steel. 42 Kalibr cruise missiles and 18 Lancet drones, together worth more than 160 million, pounded Kharkiv, Chernihiv, and Sumy, cities home to over 3.2 million civilians. Moscow called the assault Operation Winter Strike. In reality, it wasn't strategy, it was a show of force. A calculated display meant to terrify, plunging entire cities into darkness. But Kiev's silence wasn't a sign of defeat, it was a move of its own. Within hours, Ukraine launched Operation Spiralgate. 2 modified stealth MiG-19s, each costing less than 6 million cheaper than a single Panzer battery, slipped through 600 kilometers of Russian airspace. Their destination? Moscow. The Russian capital was protected by 240 radar stations. 2 Panzer S-1 systems, an electronic warfare hub known as Kasuka 4, and 76,000 surveillance cameras, a 9.4 billion fortress. Yet doubts lingered. Could one of the world's most advanced defense networks truly shield its own core? Or was this the opening act of something far greater? Meanwhile, northern Ukraine descended into chaos. Alarms blared across military bases as radar screens bled red. "Activate all defense systems," came the command. Within seconds, Patriot and ISM batteries thundered to life, firing 36 interceptors that lit up the night sky. 18 drones were destroyed, but 6 missiles broke through. In just 13 minutes, neighborhoods crumbled. Factory roofs caved in. Chernihiv's main maternity hospital suffered a direct strike. 38 people were killed, and 127 injured, including 19 newborns and 11 medical staff. Through smoke and flame, a nurse ran clutching crying infants as the building burned behind her. Across 5 provinces, power grids failed. 14 substations and 312 transformers were obliterated, leaving 400,000 people without heat as temperatures plunged below 1°C. What Moscow celebrated as victory, the rest of the world saw as the dawn of a darker, more dangerous phase of the war. At 4:47 a.m., ambulances threaded through pre-dawn streets while firefighters fought blazes fed by melting snow. A final missile ripped into an unmarked UAV factory near Sumy, Ukraine's next-generation drone hub, reportedly worth $93 million, flattening some $12,000 meters of infrastructure and sending composite fuselage fragments half a mile away. By morning, 9,200 people had been evacuated. Roads choked with frozen cars and the cries of children. Satellite images still showed 112 separate fires across the region. This was presented as more than a military strike, it was a message. Russia's winter retaliation had scorched the northern heart of Ukraine, less than 80 kilometers from NATO's eastern flank. As smoke drifted east, one thing became clear. Ukraine would not answer with blind fury, but with calculated force. At 5:20 a.m., while dust and smoke still hovered over Kharkiv, orders were issued from a hardened command bunker beneath Kiev. President Vladimir Zelensky convened his top generals, intelligence chiefs, and drone engineers as live feeds showed ruined hospitals, darkened power grids, and frozen streams of refugees moving west. Commander-in-Chief Alexander Kursky gave the word, "Initiate Operation Spiralgate." The plan was audacious. At a subterranean airstrip near Venetia, 2 heavily modified MiG-29 Fulcrums, rebuilt over 19 months in secret workshops and fitted with low-visibility coatings, infrared suppressors, and digital radar stealth suites claimed to cut detection probability by roughly 87%, sat ready. Each jet carried a mixed strike package of R-77 and KH-31. Missiles, a loadout valued at nearly $48 million, and the mission was to slip through more than 600 kilometers of hostile airspace defended by 240 radar stations, multiple Panzer S-1 systems, an electronic warfare unit, Krosa 4, and a surveillance blanket of roughly 76,000 cameras, a defensive ring estimated at over $9.4 billion. It was a near-suicidal gamble, executed with chilling precision. Kiev's audacious plan aimed to dismantle a billion-dollar defense network using just 2 aircraft worth less than $12 million combined. As satellite data streamed in, Ukrainian analysts estimated Russia's overnight assault had caused nearly $420 million in civilian damage. In contrast, President Zelensky's counterstrike would cost a fraction of that, but strike 10 times harder. Before takeoff, a mechanic brushed a spiral insignia onto each jet's fuselage, a silent oath of vengeance. The pilots saluted, faces hidden behind mirrored visors as the hangar lights dimmed. Ukraine's retribution had found its form. Could Russia's massive air defenses withstand two modified MiG-29s, or was this the spark that would redefine modern warfare? November 2nd, 2025, 3:58 a.m. Russian airspace trembled as two stealth-enhanced MiG-29 spiral variant call signs, Phantom 1 and Phantom 2, roared across the border at Mach 1.7, skimming just 36 meters above snow-covered forests. Beneath them stretched 2,000 square miles of frozen farmland. Above them, 240 radar stations swept empty skies, detecting nothing. At 3:59 a.m., Ukraine's counterstrike began. Phantom 1 released a Leica 100 UAV Decoya, $25,000 drone programmed to mimic the radar profile of a full-sized jet. The trap worked flawlessly. Two Panzer S-1 batteries, each worth $15 million, locked on and fired a $1.9 million missile volley. The night sky flashed with artificial lightning. Russia's billion-dollar defense grid had been deceived for the cost of a family sedan. It would take nearly an hour to reload. Moments later, Phantom 2 surged ahead, switching from stealth to strike mode. In 2.4 seconds, its radar locked onto the Cross A4 jamming unit, the same system that had blinded Ukraine's defenses just days earlier. A Kh-31P anti-radiation missile launched at Mach 3.5, slicing through the storm. The $12 million target disintegrated in a fireball burning at 1,200 degrees, vaporizing both steel and snow. Within 5 minutes, 3 Russian electronic warfare hubs across Bryansk province went dark, wiping out nearly 20% of Moscow's radar coverage. Chaos erupted over military comms operators shouting, monitors flooded with false targets. One radar screen showed 11 enemy aircraft where only 2 existed. In panic, a Tor M2 battery 28 miles east fired blindly, its missiles veering off by 27 meters, jammed by a new frequency-hopping algorithm coded in Lviv just weeks before. By 4:05 a.m., the skies no longer belonged to Russia. They belonged to Ukraine. Phantom 1 and Phantom 2 had torn through every remaining layer of Russia's defenses. In just 7 minutes, the Russian military had lost over $58 million in missiles, radar stations, and fuel depots, while Ukraine had spent less than $200,000. The MiGs climbed to 10,000 meters, the faint orange shimmer of Moscow glinting on the horizon. Then came Kiev Command's voice, cold, precise, and final. Target corridor confirmed. Proceed to Phase 4. The trap was complete. The heart of Russia now lay exposed beneath their wings. The pilots believed the hardest part was over. They were wrong. Behind the radar blackout, something far deadlier waited. 7 a.m. over the skies of Moscow. From 10 kilometers above the frozen capital, 2 Ukrainian MiG-29 spiral fighters sliced through the clouds like wraiths of vengeance. Below them sprawled Moscow, 12.7 million souls asleep under the illusion of safety. Inside Phantom 1, targeting systems locked in, a coded transmission cracked through the silence. Execute spiral pattern. Weapons free. 09 a.m. The first strike. 3 R-77 air-to-surface missiles, each packed with 40 pounds of high-explosive charge, roared toward the city at Mach 3.2. They struck the luxury high-rises along Kutuzovsky Prospect homes to ministers, oligarchs, and generals. The detonations shattered over 3,000 windows across a 3-mile radius. Flames raced skyward, turning a 70-story tower into a molten pillar of light. Within seconds, temperatures soared beyond 1,800 degrees, 980 degrees C, incinerating everything combustible. On the ground, Moscow's defenses disintegrated. 240 radar stations filled with phantom signals. 76,000 surveillance cameras went dark within 8 seconds after a power substation exploded. Traffic lights blinked out. The Western grid failed for 14 minutes, plunging over 2 million residents into pitch black. Moments later, Phantom 2 broke through the haze. At 4:11 a.m., it unleashed 5 Kh-31 missiles toward the government complex in the Fili district. One tore through the reserve parliament building, collapsing 3 floors. Another obliterated the Kuntsevo power plant, igniting $110 million in fuel reserves and vaporizing 3,000 gallons of transformer oil. The shockwave shattered windows along the Moscow River, its thunder rolling across the frozen city. For the first time in generations, Moscow heard the sound it had long believed impossible. War had come home.